Welcome everyone at EBSN's EPALE discussion, the very last EPALE discussion in this year, 2021. My name is Tamás Harangozo. I work for the Secretariat of the European Basic Skills Network, and I'm very happy to welcome Ms. Emma Perme from the Slovenian Ministry of Education, Science and Sport on behalf of the national delegate of the Slovenian presidency in the EU this year. Thank you, Emma, for being here.
Thank you.
And I'm also very happy to welcome our Secretary General at EBSN, Graciela Sbertoli. Thank you both for being here and addressing such an important topic at such an important time of the year, I have to say. So we gave the title, The Future of Skills, to this online discussion to be able to dedicate some time and reflection at the very end of the year on the latest developments that happened since August, September up till now in the formation of a new agenda in adult learning and the role of basic skills, especially in this agenda. So without further ado, going into our topics, we wanted to address a couple of documents, a couple of important points that has been raised in, first of all, in the conference titled Adult Education as a Resilient Response to Future Challenges that was created by the Slovenian presidency, and a very important document that came out as a result or a contribution, a continuation of this conference, the Declaration on the Adult Learning and Education by 2030 in the European Union, which summarized the main points of the conference and the main considerations that address the future of adult learning and skills in the European Union. And on behalf of EBSN, there is also a very important development, our yearly annual conference and our declaration. This year, this is called Valletta Declaration because we organized a conference in Malta, Valletta, and we also made it available to the general public what the conference participants and our membership contributed to it with regards to the future of adult learning, the future of basic skills. So these are very important things, and as we all probably have seen and know, there has been the new European agenda on adult learning adopted by the Council resolution. So that's also a very important document looking into the future. So without further introduction, I would just like to address, what do you think, and I'm talking to our experts, what do you think about the most important aspects and elements of this process, of any of these documents or any of these major outcomes? Maybe I would start with Ms. Emma Perme, if you could address this point, please.
Thank you for the invitation, and I also welcome all the audience all around Europe on behalf of the Slovenian presidency of the Council of the European Union, but also on my behalf and the Ministry of Education, Science and Sport and colleagues that we have been working hard, I would say, with the European community of adult learning for months to get this important document, which is strategic one, and it's kind of, we could say, roadmap, what we are going to do in the next decade, which is very challenging, and we are going to be, all of us, on a big, I would say, ice plate, how to do it well, perfect for the we would say for the trainers, adult educators, but at the end to adult learners all around Europe, especially those that they need adult learning and upskilling, reskilling, and all kinds of learning dedicated to develop their social skills, their personal development, their social emotional skills, which are coming at the front of the focus in all these educational systems, I would say, but also how to provide at least the basis for well-being in Europe, which should become a learning community, not only in words, but in reality, in everyday life, I mean, in every home in Europe. So maybe I would just go back to the document that you mentioned. And we started actually the process in March this year at the ministry to prepare a background paper, which was actually based on achievements on adult learning. I mean, it was a report of working group, which was consisted from the member states and the representatives of the member states under the renewed agenda on adult learning by 2020. So later on, we had discussions on European level with different stakeholders, also the representatives of the EBSN network were there with us. And later on, we've got also exploratory opinion of the Economic and Social Committee from Europe, based in Brussels, and it has 360 members, if I do well. And then we continue the discussion all over, also with member states, and then we've got the conference, as you mentioned, and we discuss it also with the UNESCO community. And then in November, we've got the document, and I would just maybe go through the cross-matching topics in the documents, which are emphasizing green and digital transition, which is at the front line in this era that we are starting. And then governance and partnership, which is very, very important because we need a holistic cross-sectoral government approach at European, national, regional, and local level regarding adult learning development at all levels and stages. And then the next one is strengthening the quality and awareness raising, guidance, but also outreach activities all across Europe and in different local areas, which is very important that we reach the most vulnerable groups. And then the fourth one is inclusion and equity, emphasizing, of course, the most crucial thing that we need, lining also on the pillar of social rights. And then the overall one that we need to raise up lifelong learning culture. That's on us, the fifth cross-matching topic. But maybe just to emphasize also the structure of the declaration, where we got kind of conclusions in a professional community, that we said that we are kind of dedicated and we are provide advocacy at different levels and in kind of 8 building blocks. Again, awareness raising, guidance and outreach, but then inclusion and democracy, knowledge and skills for life and work, green and digital, governance and partnership again, quality and professional development in EPALE, but also funding and sustainability systems, which we know that adult learning has a great challenge around it, because in most countries the finances are not stable, the national budgets are low, but adult learning is exposed to different European funds, which are in between the periods very unstable. And then also international cooperation and mobility, which is one of the important issues that also have when we are searching for new quality in adult learning, new trainings, exchanging good practices in policy, and so forth. So maybe for the start, this would be it. And maybe Graciela would add also some big important things.
Yes, thank you, Emma. It was very interesting, and it's almost uh, the same discussion that we have in basic skills when you mentioned the important topics, the green, the digital transformation, but also governance, the whole of government approach that is very often emphasized by Graciela as well. Graciela, please, how do you see the same aspects, the most important aspects here?
Thank you. And thank you, Emma, for a good presentation of a process that we have been involved in. And obviously, the, the new agenda had just come out, but because we were involved in the process, we have had time to discuss this with all our network members. And there are some themes that I think that we are very, very happy to see represented in the agenda, because it's the sort of thing that we have focused in all our conference declarations in the last years. And the first one is the fact that basic skills are still at the center. We are very aware of the fact that everything in this area, in this field of work, takes time, and we need to go on. We need to continue the focus on upskilling pathways, because it's not over by any in any degree. So we need to continue focusing on basic skills, and it is important for us to focus on the fact that even though we agree on the importance of social skills, on the importance of green skills, and all these other factors that we are uh, aware of, the EBSN will continue focusing on literacy and numeracy and digital skills, because if we don't focus on them, they will just disappear. It is the problem when you want to see all the aspects of a complex issue, that then sometimes you lose sight of the essential ones, without which you're not going to reach your objectives. So the focus on basic skills is very important for us. We are very, very happy to see this very clear statement that there needs to be an all-of-government approach, multiple stakeholder cooperation, also at regional and local level, and also with very good links between policy, research, and practice, because that is what we are aiming to do in our network. And it is essential, because otherwise we will not, as the agenda also says, we will not be able to fight the fragmentation of adult learning and of basic skills in particular. So that is the second issue that I would like to focus on. The fact that there is a very clear recommendation for a learner-centered approach that also involves the learner responsibility, the being able to build your own path, I think is wonderful. That is very, very linked to digital skills for learning. We are not going to be able to create flexible paths for the learners unless they are able to use blended learning and all sorts of a very big toolbox of digital tools. And that leads to the fourth theme, which I think is wonderfully expressed in the agenda, because it has dared also to say that we need to raise the status and the conditions of the teachers, which is a no politically often, but it has dared to say it. The teacher profession for adult learning needs to be recognized in a completely new way. They need to have better working conditions, and they need to have better conditions for their professionalization, and for having the time and space and support, technical support, to really develop their skills, to be able to work in a blended, very variable, very diverse, and very flexible provision. So all of these themes are so very present that I think there is a lot of work to do, and we're looking forward to do it. And we have actually at the EBSN, one of our main focus of work now is precisely the professional development of the teachers and trainers. And we see there's a lot to do there.
Thank you very much. Yes, we mentioned some of the main points, the main focuses that we could focus on or take it in the forefront in the next decade. And we went into some of the challenges. Emma, you mentioned the financing. Graciela, you mentioned also the whole of government approach. And it seems like a very transitional period of time with all the challenges with the green and digital transformations going on already for a few decades, at least the digital. So in this transitional period, what do you think as a good way to address these challenges, funding, governance, and all of these, the status of teachers, and to try to overcome this fragmentation in the sector so that we are succeeding until 2030? How do you see this? Maybe Emma, you could address this first.
Yeah, well, I mean, cooperation, collaboration, those are the words, but also exchanging information and linking different levels of actors. As Graciela said, multi-stakeholders approach at all levels, but also have a structure how to do it and who's responsible for what. Commitment, those are the activities and manners that we are going to need to kind of strengthen for the future, for adult learning in the next decade in Europe. And I think that, I mean, if I'm look at it from the Slovenian perspective, it's just that we finished the national resolution of adult learning for the next decade, consisting with 14 ministries. I mean, there's a lot of things to do, but at least we have a national document which is going to go through the parliament, and almost all the policies are committed to do it. And this is one step, we would say, to go forward, how to strengthen the governance and the commitment to adult learning. This is also linked then down there to providing different measures, instruments with money, and support different activities. And something that I would like to emphasize in this that I forgot at the very beginning, I mean, we are aging in Europe, and we have also population, a lot of it, all over Europe that is 65 plus. So we emphasize also this age group in the document, and it seems to me important because, I mean, for them, this digital and green transition is going to be a big challenge as well, as also for the young people and all kinds of, we could say, age groups, and also target groups, vulnerable groups that we have in Europe. Yeah, the commitment and the governance.
Thank you. It's such a great example that you mentioned with the intergenerational perspectives, because if something happens, it has to happen together for everyone in Europe. How do you see this, Graciela, from the
Yeah,
public?
actually, I was going to say exactly what you said now in your last sentence, Tamás, that it has to happen for everybody. And I think that part of the solution is to look at synergies much more than we have done so far. We tend to think of financing for adult learning as something separate from financing for elementary schools for children. But if we think now at how to teach in a blended way, we need it for the teachers and for their parents. And if we look more at family learning systems, for instance, we will save money. And if we look at the needs of the elderly generation, which I belong to, we are saving money if we make this generation able to fend for themselves from home because of virtual tools. So we need to focus on return of investment for adult learning to show that financing this is not throwing money away. It actually comes back in savings from other sectors. And that is why we need this whole of government approach. So the whole of government approach is a necessity, and it is the first focus for governance that we need. It is difficult, but it is in itself part of the solution. Because if all the both national, regional, local policy implementers understand that they are actually saving money by creating links between their different measures, there will be much more of a whole of governance approach, and we will maybe get to what is our vision, to really create national programs for basic skills for adults and not just projects that end. We need to look at things like the German literacy decade and establish that sort of programs in all countries. And that needs to be done from the top. So adult learning has been too much of a grassroots movement for many decades in Europe. We really need from the top, but in cooperation with the bottom and with the middle and with the learners and with everybody. A lot of work to do.
Yes, exactly. And as you mentioned, the grassroots nature of its initiatives implicates that it's a very active field on the grassroots. There is absolutely no lack of initiatives and lack of diversity from the field. So what we need is actually some kinds of a fine tuning on a higher level. Thank you. And you mentioned, both of you kind of implied the role of financing, but also on how to overcome the innovation part of it. Graciela, you mentioned the blended learning part, and Emma, you also mentioned cooperation, collaboration of different level stakeholders that could lead very well to new types of provision. What we have in the comments is actually a very important thing that was mentioned by Graciela. You mentioned the return of investment. It says by Linda, recent research in the US shows that social skills have a higher rate of return in terms of income. Which skills do you think have a higher rate of return? And we tend to think about technical return, technical skills or hard skills that has the biggest return for an individual and for an employment as well. But what do you think of the social skills, softer skills? Do they have a role to play in the future of adult learning? Are we moving in this direction?
Shall I answer that? I thoroughly agree that social skills are extremely important, maybe most of all important for the individual. And if you think of employability, they are very, very important. There are other skills that are equally important, thinking of the employability part, which is, for instance, entrepreneurship, which doesn't really mean that you start your own company, but that you are self-driven in a work situation. You don't need the boss to tell you all the time what you're doing. But if you think of which skills have the most return in terms of making an enormous impact in the life of the learners, then go back to literacy. Because we tend, again and again, we need to say it, we tend to think that literacy is about alphabetization, and it's not. People with literacy at level 1 that get taken by good provision of learning to level 3 or beyond, it changes their lives completely. And that will have an enormous impact in terms of being a critical reader of news. You will be able, to a certain extent, not completely, but get rid of fake news, but you will have a more informed population, that can take decisions, that can be part of democratic life. That's where the real impact is. And nowadays, obviously, digital, and let's not forget numeracy.
May I
Or
just
financial
maybe
problems.
mention
Yeah.
maybe mention an example that we have in Slovenia, supported by the ESF fund from 2016 to 2020, that we have this experience exactly from the practice, where we put counselors that they went to companies, they have been talking with the employers, and then later they did some exploratory and personal profiles with the low-skilled workers, and then they found out that they're lacking kind of fields of basic skills, and they provide them different kind of programs to actually upskill these basic skills, and they prolong later on in vocational courses, which is a very good practical example how things are going. As Graciela said, if you don't have basic skills, if you don't have this underground, you cannot go further with the digital skills and vocational skills and other professional skills. But also, I mean, you cannot, in a way, all kind of researches showed up that people are not active in democratic society, in social processes, and they're kind of behind, we could say, and they don't have any kind of active role, even they don't have any kind of power to develop themselves, their personalities.
Mm. Yes, thank you for this case study or this initiative. Definitely, we think of basic skills in EBSN as a gateway to all innovations, to all policy transformations, innovations. So obviously, for the new agenda as well, it is a gateway. We also have a comment from our Bulgarian colleague Zulian. Technical skills cannot be enhanced without a strong focus on basic skills. This will be of key importance for Bulgaria until 2030. So exactly, we need this kind of dedication or decision on a higher level to focus on technical skills, but to focus on basic skills on the other hand as well, to make innovation happen easier and to make innovation happen in an inclusive way, for sure.
I just wanted to say something, I mean, which is very important, that, as Graciela said at the very beginning, I mean, that you are going to continue your work. I think that we need EBSN network in Europe, especially to emphasize these issues and topics regarding basic skills and all kinds of literacies that we need to be developed, especially for low-skilled people. I do very much support from my personal perspective, but also professional one, that we need this network in Europe. So I wish you all the best, and hopefully we're going to get new empowering documents that they are going to support these initiatives and all kinds of wishes that they are good for our adults, and I mean for our societies in Europe.
Thank you very much, Emma. We are always very pleased to work with your ministry in Slovenia. And I saw the comment from Zulian, the Bulgarian Ministry of Education has just joined the network last year. And we're really looking forward to working with different governance spots in Europe, because we can agree on a lot of issues, but then it has to be adapted to the conditions of each particular country. And we are very eager to work as a network with all of you in this way. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you both for coming and for saying these very interesting insights and important forward-looking insights. And on the place of a last note, would you like to re-emphasize some of the key aspects that you would like to put out there for the future?
Yeah, well, I haven't really talked so much about the conference declaration from Malta, but I'm looking forward to the written discussion. And there, I guess that all the participants will have the possibility to read it, and we will emphasize some of the points. But from the point of view of the EBSN, what is fantastic is that the new agenda and our conference declaration goes very well hand in hand. We have focused on mostly the same aspects of the policy that we need to develop and implement. So we can discuss it in the written discussion.
Great.
I will be short, but maybe I just need to emphasize this governance and commitment of different actors. That is going to be probably the most possible way that we continue the work on adult learning in Europe on the right direction and support all those that they need it the most, but also others to develop our societies and economies.
Emma, Graciela, thank you very much for your insights. It's been a pleasure to have you here and listen to your experiences. As Graciela had mentioned, we are going to continue the discussion on EPALE. So I'm turning to our audience, our participants, colleagues now. Do let us know about your feelings, insights related to this live stream, which will be available, but also about the documents and the content and how you see the future of the skills, the future of adult learning, the future of basic skills in Europe, what we need to do in the next 10 years and the next decade to make it as inclusive, innovative as possible, and to move into the same direction. So we will continue the dialogue until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Graciela will be there. I will be also there to facilitate the discussion. So feel free to join us. And again, Graciela, Emma, thank you very much for your presence here.
Thanks to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.